Okay. One Piece chapter 1105 blind review. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, man. Even though I did want to see the Buster Call take place and like see the nitty gritty, like we're already done with genocide, might as well go all the way, right? Well, even though I said I wanted to see that, it's kind of crazy to me that like Oda gives me what I want. And then he does something that continues to just tug at the heartstrings. That panel where Bonnie is in the air with her father, and you have Vegapunk narrating, and he's like, "When I heard that you became a pirate, it crossed my mind that a clone of your father would end up killing you." That broke me right there. Like it didn't make me to the point where like I had tears in my eyes like I did a couple of chapters ago, but it got me to the point where I saw the cruel twist of fate and the cruel irony in the whole situation. Like it's different when you have full context. And that's the mark of a really good writer with in terms of what Oda's doing, is that he's able to use situational irony as well as he does dramatic irony. And it's something that other mangaka they struggle with in my opinion, but it's one thing I do think One Piece does excel with. So we open up this chapter with like all the chaos going on. All these men in the Navy, they're like, dude, we got to get out of here. I don't know what's going on. There's a Buster Call. Everyone abandoned. The ships are getting ready to fire. You see more of the fallout, and you have the moment where Saturn's like, look, Kizaru and we're going to remain on this island. We're going to make sure that everybody is dead here. And what I like about that is like Kizaru, he's looking, and then he just says go. He just runs with it. And it's one of those things where like I don't personally care for the admirals, but the one thing I will give them is that when it comes to their moral code and when it comes to them doing what they think is right and the side that they're on, they stick to it. Now, I do respect people like Garp more, but I can also admit some of that comes from bias just given the fact that like Garp has that attachment to Dragon, he has that attachment to Luffy. So it's one of those things where I do kind of realize I have a bias towards Garp, but I gotta respect Kizaru for just going along with it. Like the man did not falter here. And what's also interesting here is that Saturn is giving out the instruction. He's like, look, I want everything destroyed. And when Vegapunk tries to intervene, he's like, I thought my life was the only thing you wanted. Why are you killing everyone else? And he tries to appeal to Kizaru. This is a moment where there's a line that dropped in as I was reading it before it even got disclosed. I said Vegapunk screwed up. So the line in question was where he said, and I'm paraphrasing, if you destroy all of this, you're going to set all the progress that we've made back 100 or so years. And he's basically saying, call off the Buster Call. And the thing that got me on that was the word progress. And progress is a word that it can be a dirty word, and I'm going to use a strong word myself. It can be a dirty word in the eyes of a tyrant. And that's kind of how I'm starting to view the Five Elders in a way. Like, they're so committed to controlling the flow of information, controlling outcomes to an extent that they do not want whatever happened in the Void Century to come to light. And this is the same thing that happened with Nico Robin's people. They flew too close to the sun. They got too close to the truth. They discovered the truth. And now they're having to pay for it. Now, I do think this would be different, because like the Straw Hats are there, and maybe this is me downplaying Kizaru and Saturn, but I kind of feel like what's going to happen is Luffy's going to kick somebody's ass, whether it's Kizaru or whether it is Saturn. It might be too soon for Saturn, we did see it, but I think he's kicking somebody's ass and they're getting Vegapunk out of there because it just feels like there's more to Vegapunk's story. And the whole time this is going on, like my heart's kind of breaking for Nico Robin because it's like everywhere she goes, there's some kind of chaos. And now that she's finally found a family, she's finally found a home, she has to go through something like this all over again. Granted, this island's not her home, but her home in question is the Straw Hats. Home is where whoever is thinking about you is thinking about you. And that's what she has with the Straw Hats. And I just hate that Nico Robin has to relive this nightmare all over again. And I'm starting to feel for Vegapunk because he says it's all for the sake of humanity. And so when you have Saturn saying that we don't need progress because progress is troublesome to the world government. And we see the extent that he's willing to go through. He says, like, hey, like that ship that you had leave Egghead, yo, fam, we shot that down. And then I sent out battleships just to make sure that nobody survived. And that's the crazy part. He's willing to go that far to make sure what happened in the Void Century never comes to light. And this is the one time where I'm like, man, I kind of want to see Luffy shove his foot up Saturn's ass right now. Like I need that to happen. I need that to happen. It's not going to happen for a minute, but I need that to happen. And so as this is going on, you have the Kuma clones, they're running out there, they're following orders, and you have Sanji where he's directing traffic. And I thought for a moment it was Vegapunk they're carrying off, and it wasn't. And I had to go back, and it was what I thought, so it was Kuma. And so it's one of those times where Sanji is doing the right thing because Bonnie's asking, you know, what about Vegapunk? And he basically tells her he's going to be okay, I'm going to bring him back. And he's trying to communicate with Nami. And what I like about this is that this isn't Sanji going into Super Simp mode. This is Sanji basically stepping up as number 2. Even though Zoro, I think we all believe, is the de facto number 2 of the Straw Hats, the reason I like this crew so much is that at any given moment, any of them could step up to that number 2 spot. Because being a number 2 for a crew like Luffy, it means being versatile. It means rising up and basically meeting the call to adventure, the call to action, if you will. And so what Sanji's doing, he's basically building up the confidence of Bonnie and letting her know that, hey, everything's going to be good, to keep her from getting too worried. And this is also important because, again, Bonnie's a child. It's hard to remember that at times because of her adult appearance. And so when he's bringing everybody up to speed, you got Usopp, you know, he's freaking out, the island's done for. And it's one of those things like when Usopp does, you know, get to tell the story. Like maybe he's telling it to Kaya or something. Like he's told so many crazy lies that this is one of those times where this is so crazy and it's actually true that people might not believe him, that he's survived a buster call. And so what I like about this is that as Nami's getting the readout, in the background, your heart breaks for Nico Robin. Because Nico Robin, she's on a medical bed, she's, you know, taped up and everything, and Nico Robin, in that moment, you gotta believe she's having flashbacks to everything that's happened to her in the past. And she's trying to get out. And that's such a powerful panel. Like, while you got like Nami on there and you got Usopp freaking out, etc., that panel with Nico Robin, having her right there in the center, that's one of those times where that is beautiful panel placement. You cannot do any better than what you have right here. And so I thought that was a nice touch by Oda, and it kind of drowns out everything else because your eyes, as the chapters, you're free reading it. For me, my eyes went to Nami first, and then when I saw Nico Robin and I saw the expression on her face, even though it's not a close-up, it just made me break all over again for Nico Robin. And we end up finding out that like the Straw Hats, their escape plan, basically Kizaru ruined it, but Lilith basically is stepping in with Brook, and they've got their own plan to get the Thousand Sunny out the way. And the way that they're going to do it is they're going to turn the ramps into, turn the clouds into a ramp. And when Brook says, hey, I didn't think too far ahead on how to land this thing, that's the comedy moment. And, you know, longtime viewers, you guys know, I've always said, like, I've noticed with Oda, there's always a heavy hand and a soft hand. It really reminds me of Dragon Ball a lot. And I know Oda looked at Toriyama like a mentor. That feels like something Toriyama would do, where you have this super serious chapter, but somehow, some way, there's some kind of humor slipped into this. And this is such a heavy chapter that it had to be done. And so you see all these ships starting to make their way towards Vegapunk's records. And you see that the chaos is going on. The city's being destroyed. The Kuma clones are just doing all of their damage. You got Kizaru attempting to do the damage that he's doing, because you got Frank, I believe that's Frankie and one of Vegapunk's clones. They're trying to escape. And Kizaru's like, you ain't none of y'all getting away from here. And as that's going on, we have the ending shot where Kuma is holding his daughter. They're in the air. And you got all of these clones of Kuma getting ready to shoot her down. Saturn's given the order. And you have Vegapunk saying, again, I talked about this in the intro, when I heard you became a pirate, Bonnie, there was an awful possibility that came through my mind that a clone that looks like your father would end up shooting you down. And that's why I do think that Luffy's going to come, because Luffy, like all the Marines are there and they're like, oh, we have to capture the Straw Hat. He's one of the 4 emperors, however, which is funny because like supposed to be 5 emperors, but they're like, hey, this is one of the 4 emperors. We got to capture him. And yet at the same time, you know, like Luffy, it's going to be that cartoon method. Like he's got the big stomach and all of a sudden it's going to shrink down, probably going to Gear 5. And Luffy is going to end up raising hell. But the other thing that we get is that we find out that they failed to destroy the ship that escaped. And that the ship ended up going back to Egghead. And so that's so interesting because like, you look at it, you know that Saturn is not going to take kindly to failure. And yet at the same time, the stakes have just continued to rise here. This was a very good chapter. This was very, very good. Like the art's on point. Like it took me a while with One Piece to just get used to the way Oda draws bodies. And I know that's a meme and everything, but when you really get down into the nitty gritty with the story and you get into the world building, the emotional payoff, One Piece handles emotional payoff arguably as one of the best manga I've ever read. Like I would have to like literally sit down and I would have to think about it. Like I can't necessarily say that I enjoy One Piece more than Naruto. There are parts of One Piece I enjoy more than Naruto. There are things I think One Piece does a whole lot better than Naruto. And yet at the same time, there's just something about Naruto for me personally. I don't know if it's nostalgia because like I was reading that when Naruto was weekly and I've just been kind of binging One Piece at my own pace for the last 10 years, honestly. I think I started doing blind reviews in 2015. That's why I want to hurry up because it's been a decades-long journey. But this is one of those times where I read this chapter and I actually have to stop right now because I'm waiting for some thumbnails. That way I can do the next set of reviews. It's not going to be as long of a turnaround time because I was supposed to get them today. I might end up getting them tonight. And if so, great. If not, then I'm hoping to have one of the videos I'm working on to go back up. But it's one of those times where I just see what's going on with Kuma and his daughter. And I see the way Saturn's handling everything and how arrogant he is. And I have never wanted a One Piece character to get their ass kicked more than I want to see Saturn get his ass kicked right now. Like it's between him and it's between Akainu. It's between those two, which that's gonna be my chapter question for you guys. Between those two characters, who do you think deserves to get their ass kicked first? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.